room if you desire assistance with the translation. Buenas tardes, Presidente Noble, miembros de la Junta Escolar y Superintendente, doctora García. Mi nombre es Germán y ayudaré con cualquier solicitud de traducción de miembros de la comunidad que deseen dirigirse a la Junta de Educación. Estaré en la parte de atrás de la sala si ustedes desean ayuda con la traducción. Gracias.
Thank you very much. Now we will move to the acknowledgement of the tribal land, which as we move towards sort of more awareness of and recognition of our multicultural environment, I had asked, given that we do the salute to the pledge to the flag and the salute to the New Mexico flag, that we consider this. So Dr. Garcia.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. You know, as we look at the Yasi Martinez lawsuit, one of the big components of that is really the recognition in our educational systems of our cultural and diversity that we have in our great state. But I also want to thank Board President Noble that we have gone a long way in our district in terms of our Indian education, our tribal consultation, but also to show respect and recognition of where we are and of the people that we serve as well. And to that end, I've asked our Director of Indian Education, Nancy Davis, we asked her to follow up on this for us and to consult with the Pueblo of Tesuque, but also what is being done in many of their meetings, and found out that this is actually a standard practice. So Nancy, Ms. Davis, would you be so kind as to share with us the importance of this, how you use it in your meetings, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
Good evening, President Noble, members of the board, Dr. Garcia, and audience. Again, my name is Nancy Davis. I am the coordinator for Native American Student Services for Santa Fe Public Schools K through 12. It is my great honor and privilege to introduce the acknowledgement of land. This simple yet very meaningful act of acknowledgement conveys a very powerful message to the original inhabitants of the land. And Santa Fe, before it was Santa Fe, was called Hoye, or White Shellwater Place, in which the Tesuque Pueblo, our brothers and sisters to the north, inhabited this area. As an educational institution, it is our job to educate and teach the truth to our students and to not perpetuate false narratives. This is a big step in moving forward to honoring and reconciling colonization and the effects of that, which last to this day. Since time immemorial, Native peoples have always paid respect to our ancestors, to our elders, those that came before us, those that will come after us. Around Indian country, this is a very common standard practice to give thanks to the people wherever a meeting or convention or ceremony, powwow, anything of that sort is being held. Recently, governments and educational institutions have started implementing this act. Canada is one government that makes this protocol and policy. Higher institutions are now doing this, and New Zealand's another country that has done this. So I think that Santa Fe Public Schools is taking a huge step forward by implementing this practice, and hopefully we can make it policy. Some people might ask, why is land acknowledgement important? For one, it brings public awareness and consciousness so that we can make informed decisions moving forward. It offers recognition and respect. It counters the doctrine of discovery with the true story of the people who were already here. Creates a broader public awareness of the history that has led to this moment. It begins to repair relationships with Native communities and with the land. Reminds people that colonization is an ongoing process with native land still occupied due to deceptive and broken treaties. It takes a cue from Indigenous protocol, opening up our space with reverence and respect. I commend Board President Kate Noble, Board of Education, and Dr. Garcia for your leadership and for bringing about this education into our school and our public awareness as well. Thank you. I stand for any questions.
Thank you. Does anyone have questions for Nancy? And will you take us through the protocol of the acknowledgement of tribal land, please?
Sure. So I think first and foremost we have to ground ourselves with that, just having that reverence and awareness, because we are all in some way, shape, or form products of colonization and how that has led us to this point, and think of our ancestors, think of our future, our children, our children's children, and what better place to do that than an educational institution. So this is the acknowledgement of tribal land that we use in our, I'm saying our Santa Fe Public Schools Native American Student Services ceremonies and gatherings. It could be adapted, it could be modified. As Dr. Garcia said, we did seek input from Tesuque Pueblo, Okeowinge, some of the northern pueblos, and this can be revised at our next tribal consultation if that's what they would like. But this is a simple statement that anyone can read, native and non-native. And here in Santa Fe, the land of Santa Fe, as I mentioned before contact was White Shell Water Place, or Poge. So we can all say this in unison, starting, and we can stand as well. Traditionally and formally, when we start our tribal consultations, when our governors gather here with the board members and with Dr. Garcia and educational leaders, we all stand and rise, and a Pueblo governor prays in their native language to help us have a good heart, a good mind, to work together and be positive for a greater outcome. So, we acknowledge
the original people of the land, the Tesuque Pueblo people, and other tribal nations, and ask them to walk with us today as we share and learn together.
I think that our friend, our educational leader, and our advocate, the late Susan Duncan, is here with us and smiling upon us and applauding our efforts as a whole, because she was a real strong believer in equitable education and teaching the truth. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you very much. And I, of course, am in the district seat that Susan Duncan sat in, and I think that's a very fitting, actually, end to the presentation. And thank you very much, Ms. Davis. That's beautifully said. And I often think about what would Susan do, and try to fill the very big shoes and very high standard that she set. I also just want to acknowledge Nancy Davis, who is, I think, doing incredible work in our schools to recognize and work on the issues of colonization. And I appreciate your words tonight. It was beautifully said. And what better wisdom than to think about the wisdom we get from the elders and the promise that we get from the children and those that come after us. So hopefully we can continue to learn and reconcile, and thank you for all the work that you do with our Native American students and really the whole community and healing in the public schools. And we will continue to work on the important public awareness and increased consciousness around these issues. So thank you. Okay, Okay, moving on to what we have labeled on the agenda as the School Board Showcase. As many know, we are often treated under the leadership of Leanne Devon to the music, the great music of the different schools in the Santa Fe Public Schools. And tonight we have the Capitol High School Synchronicity Group. They will be doing Imagine by John Lennon under the direction of Jeff Owen. So thank you all very much for being here, and we're excited to hear you sing.
a very common error. Where are you?
I'm here.
There you are. My name is Jeff Owens. This is synchronicity. Okay? We call ourselves synchronicity because as we sing, we grow, and we're looking for those moments of synchronicity to unify us. So that's who we are. When I first got to Capital High School, I started this group, and it's been a fixture for the last 7 years. We do a little bit more every year. Most recently, the last couple of years, we've been going to the Best of New Mexico Acapella competition down in Rio Rancho, and having a real great time down there. Schools from all over the state of New Mexico. We did that in March this year. In May, we'll be performing at the Ode to Joy. What do you call that? A big extravaganza, Ms. Devon? Is that what we call that?
Yes.
At the end of the year, the music department has groups from elementary schools,
Take a big bow. Thank you for your beautiful voices and for sharing them with us tonight.
Before the group of Capital High School exits the building here, I saw Capital High School when they were doing a performance together for a Christmas party with Nino Otero. When I first saw them, I've been trying to get them here. Thank you for getting them here. They're actually excellent. I feel like I'm seeing them drunk twice or something. And they definitely have my vote, so press the line. Great job up there. Excellent job. Thank you.
Okay, well, that was a treat, and I won't make the same mistake as my synchronicity. So now, as we're moving on, and the idea is to really showcase some of the excellent things going on in the Santa Fe Public Schools, we are going to move to item 4B, which is the student technology demonstration. And forgive me if I hit any of these names wrong, but Faber Osorio, Stephanie Navarez, and Andrew Obispo are going to show us their technology under the direction of Amory Martinez.
Are we ready?
Good evening, President Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Garcia. I'm Amory Martinez, digital learning coach for Ortiz Middle School and Equal Early College Opportunities. And this evening, we'll be showcasing some of the apps, entrepreneurial. We have an entrepreneurial program at Ortiz Middle School, and so it's headed by our technology instructor, Mr. Jonathan Flanagan, and so he'll be taking some of this.
President Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Garcia. My name is Jonathan Flanagan. I teach startup technology at Ortiz Middle School. I have the pleasure of teaching that class. That is taught through the Network for Teachers of Entrepreneurship. And I have a few students here today. Again, Faber Osorio, I have Stephanie Navarez, and Andrew Obispo, and they're going to kind of walk you through what they've been doing in class the past few months to prepare for their showcase on May 10th. So without further ado, we have Faber Osorio.
President Noble, member of the board, Superintendent Garcia. My name is Faber Osorio. Startup Tech is an entrepreneurship course that asks us to identify ways to improve our world and to build a marketable digital solution using MIT.
Can you get a little closer to the mic so we can hear you? Thank you.
Startup and entrepreneurship course that asks us to identify ways to improve our world and to build a marketable digital solution using MIT App Inventor. Everything we do in our class is focusing on building our entrepreneurship mindset, which includes characteristics such as self-reliance, flexibility, communication, critical thinking, and confident with risk. Example of what we're doing in class is currently we're working in teams of our own, business team applications. We began conducting a market research and then moving on to determining a business model and creating a marketing material. From there, we created a wireframe, which essentially is paper prototype of our app, and we are currently in progress of translating these wireframes into a functional product using MIT App Inventor. Once we complete the app, we will present it along our business models to a panel of judges on May 10th. My business team application is called Chill and Grill. Chill and Grill, our mission statement is to help people find healthy recipes along easy to use following instructions for young adults who may need guidance in preparing their own simple healthy meals. We found that 5% of our target market considers themselves to be a complete home cook, and Chill and Grill will hope to solve this problem. This is our app, Chill and Grill here. It has different features as breakfast, lunch, dinner, tools, and technology. No, my bad. Ingredients and techniques. This is all. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could,
Just Madam President, if I may, just anybody that's going to get up here and speak, or anybody's going to take pictures of your kids, your guys are welcome to take pictures and speak. This is your building. This is a public building, and we're welcome to have everybody here. So I know it's a little bit hard to speak, but this is your building. This is a public building. Get up and speak. Thank you.
Osorio. And who's next? Stephanie Navarez?
Do I lean into it? Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. President Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Garcia. My name is Stephanie Navarez, and I'm a part of a business team in Mr. Flanagan's startup tech class. Our market research has indicated that tourism is growing rapidly in New Mexico, nearly twice the national average. We've recognized this as an opportunity to create an application that caters to those who are planning a visit to our city. We've identified that tourists who visit Santa Fe are often ignorant to the city and what it has to offer. Santa Fe Explorer, my business team's application, allows users to search activities, shops, and experiences unique to our city, and then create a sort of a vacation plan that that they can follow as they explore Santa Fe. Sorry. For now, we only have a rough draft of it, but this is what we have for now. And we have search for experiences, and we have just a list of things that we would think the tourist would usually go to or explore, and we can go to historic sites, and we can see there, just historic sites in Santa Fe and the miles away and distance-wise. The city's town executive director of tourism has stated that visitors to Santa Fe are looking for a unique experience, and we agree. They want to participate, learn, and partake in the experience, and we think Santa Fe Explorer can help. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
President Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Garcia. Hi, my name is Andrew Obispo, and I am one of the founders of NetFit. So what is NetFit? NetFit is an app that can help you have a better life. NetFit is an everyday app that will help you stay in shape. The way we do this is by sending a notification. But we don't want to put a notification on an inconvenient time. So we have a screen dedicated to you inputting your schedule. Did you know 70% of the people forget things? This helps in so many ways. This helps you by reminding you to do the list of requirements. Also, this helps because it doesn't disturb you on a busy time and many more. Every day is a different list of requirements. Like one day is eating right, another day is like working out, and so on. We are doing this because a lot of people are trying to get in shape, but not in the right way. This app will help you. This app won't just get you in better shape. It will help you be healthier, stronger, and have a better mindset. Our app has a notification for you to never forget to do something active or even healthy things. It doesn't have to be extremely hard. This is where NetFit helps you. By giving you a to-do list every day and sending you reminders at convenient times, you will get a set of your own timer, or in other words, like an alarm clock. But this is how this app really works. Every day, we have a different list of activities for you to do. Every day is a different category. Every time you open the app, you would be taking a list of activities to do. That is because we made a code of the screens to automatically go to the screen of the following day. So you won't have to keep on pressing buttons to go to the list that you would have to do. This is what we believe that would happen. We believe once the notification pops up on their phone, in their spare time, we will do the list of the activities. If you don't, that's your choice. We are not forcing you to do the list of activities. We are telling you to do the right thing. If you do the list of activities, you will have an amazing lifestyle. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all three of you. So are these available yet? Because I could use literally all three of those.
Yeah, so they're currently prototypes at the moment. We've been working very hard the past 3 months to get these business plans together and these prototypes coded. They're currently working on the user interface and the programming, and they'll hopefully be ready by May 10th when our showcase at Ortiz Middle School will be occurring. The public is invited, board members are invited if you'd like to come by and see the different boards we'll be making, the different prototypes that will be available for showcasing.
And when is it again?
May 10th.
May 10th.
Madam President? So congratulations, we're so proud of you, but it's really interesting to see how, and you were part of the initial meeting, Linda Sink was Deputy Sink was reminding me, and I know Mr. Gephardt was a part of that as well, and we had a meeting, I can't remember the group, but it was, they came to talk to us about entrepreneurial education. Excuse me?
It's a NIFTY, Network for Teachers of Entrepreneurship.
Right, and so it just sounded fascinating. We had initial meetings, and then we handed it off, and Ms. Zink then took it to a different place, and then to the school, and I understand the teachers are embracing this. So, but again, it's that interface as we look at the attributes of the graduate, right? And we look at entrepreneurial, ways of how people can create professions and move forward, and this is just so impressive, and I want the NetFit app.
Thank you. It'll be available May 10th.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to the students. These are great ideas. Little known fact, I believe I actually, as part of my role in economic development, ran the first app development challenge in New Mexico in 2010. You were all very, very young then. And honest to goodness, none of them were as good as any of these three. So if anybody ever doubted that this district is a leader in computer science, I give you these three students. Thank you for your work. And thank you, Mr. Flanagan and Mr. Martinez. Moving swiftly along, we are at item number 5 on the agenda, public forum. Is there anyone signed up to speak? And Mr. Gephardt will let us know and read the ground rules if applicable.
President Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Garcia. We do have 6 people who've signed up to speak. The public forum ground rules are, please listen and speak with respect. No uncivil conduct will be permitted. Please do not discuss any specific student who is not your own. No sharing of time. Self-monitor and observe the 3-minute time limit. I'll give you a 30-second warning when your time is almost up. Public commentary and dialogue is allowed only during the public forum, not throughout the meeting. Please search for answers on common ground. You may speak on any topic, whether it's on the agenda or not. Your input will be taken into consideration. Please be advised that the board may discuss your issue during the meeting, but by law, the board cannot take action on items that are not on the agenda. Associate Superintendent Wagner will be keeping time for us tonight. And the first 3 who have signed up, Carl Morano, Randy Mondragon, and Dylan Ramirez.
President Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Garcia, I'm Carl Morano, principal at Santa Fe High School, and I'm here to speak tonight on the concerning issue of the growing amount of teens and even adolescents using electronic cigarettes. It has been a major problem at our school during this current school year. 75% of our discipline has been for students either in possession or using vapes or electronic cigarettes. Our code of conduct policy supports administration in being able to confiscate these items, hand down suspensions, and make referrals to teen court as necessary. This is not the issue. The issue we are facing is that teens' use of e-cigs or vapes has become a huge problem. And just recently, in December of 2018, in an article, the Surgeon General, Jerome Adams, stated that vaping is now an epidemic in the United States. And I'm urging our community tonight to come together so that in our own city of Santa Fe, we can be looking at ways that we can stop this. We are looking at a huge number of our youth, some starting as early as 10 years old, becoming addicted to nicotine and facing long-term health risks. There have been instances this school year in which other substances such as THC and other dangerous drugs have been inputted into vapes, and it even caused some of our students to pass out. When I speak to parents, the majority are aware that their children are vaping, and some claim that it helps them relax, or it helps with anxiety, or it's just recreational, without realizing a possible addiction or how it is impacting their health. We have vape stores in our own city and across the nation that regularly sell vape mods and the juice that, along with other vape substances to our youth. We have adults purchasing these supplies and providing them to our young people. And why are we allowing this to happen? What can be done to stop this epidemic, and how can we better inform our youth and their families about the serious health risks? I'm urging our school board, our mayor, and other community members to become involved and help begin to put a stop to this issue. We can't just sit back any longer and let it happen. Let's make a difference here in Santa Fe and let it spread statewide and even nationwide so that we can protect our children, so that our leaders of tomorrow will be healthy, productive citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mondragon.
Thank you. I will. Madam President, Board, Superintendent, my name is Randy Mondragon. I am an activity driver for Santa Fe Public Schools. This is my 17th year. And I'm here, and I'm doing right now as activity we fill in on regular routes. Right now I'm doing Route 16. It does Ninatero, it does Ortiz, and it does Capitol High. I'm here tonight to talk about the safety that I see not happening at these schools when we're transporting students in and out of these schools. The chaos that happens in the morning, in the evening when we're transporting everybody, it's just like everything broke loose and everybody's trying to get out as quick as they can. Meanwhile, we have anywhere from 71 to 46 kids on our buses. You know, we have anywhere from 5 buses up to 10 buses at these schools. We're trying to get these kids home safe. That's our job. Point A, point B, safe. It's very difficult to do this when we have people just darting out in front of us. At Capitol High, we have an entrance that has 2 lanes, one exit, one enter, and we have cars going in both. So we're sitting there with a bus full of students wondering, what are these people thinking that we have this big vehicle with all these students, all these lives that we're responsible for, and nobody cares. Meanwhile, and I know that I've been told that the security is contracted, but when I go pick up the students in the evening, I see 10 security guards at the front of the door where there's no students. Meanwhile, everybody is chaos, jumping out there in their cars like they don't care. We care. I make sure these kids get back and forth safe. On a personal note, I took these boys, and I'm very proud of these boys. And I tell you what, I made sure they got there safe. And you can ask every one of them, I made sure. And that's the same with every kid that we take every day. And it's not just me as one individual, but the whole group of drivers. We care about these kids. We watched them grow up. And it would just kill us to see anything happen to any of these kids. So I'm just asking, I don't know what we can do. I know it's a hard fix, but maybe we can do something to get it taken care of. Police department, whatever we have to do to get this slowed down, because it's chaos. It really is. It's scary. Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you, and thank you for your service.
Alrighty, yes sir. Good evening, President Noble, members of the board, and Superintendent Garcia. My name is Dylan Ramirez. I am a senior at Santa Fe High School. And just to give you guys an idea of where I'm coming from, I've been admitted into 8 colleges, my top 2 being NYU and Occidental College. So as far as those things go, things are looking up. I'm very involved in athletics. I actually missed a tennis game today in order to be here. Aside from that, I'm very much involved in the gym atmosphere. And the reason I mention these things is despite these interests and these attractions, I somehow managed to fall victim to nicotine and its addictive nature. So that's what I'll be talking about today. And in a way, I'm really throwing myself under the bus, right? And it's a little difficult to admit this in front of you guys, right? But when we have a problem this big, I think that the most important thing we could do is be honest. And the honest truth at hand is that this is a serious problem and it needs action. So I won't present to you guys the facts or the statistics. Instead, I give to you the high schooler perspective. It's a very personal insight. And I've seen how my friends, how my school, and my community have been victims of nicotine use, right? And it's a serious problem. And if we look at products today, products such as Juul, and we compare them with products from, say, 5 years ago, we see that the nicotine content is extremely high. It's really unjust, right? And when you think that children as young as 13 years old are being exposed to these things, right, it's just crazy to think about. If we take a look at the habitual user, I'm not talking about the middle schooler or the elementary kid who has just discovered this thing. I'm talking about the kid who has used these things for years. We see that their motives, the reason why they're using it is not to be cool. It's not because they like it, it's because they're addicted. And this is the reality, right? And it's people like me and it's people all around us, right? And it's this very serious problem. And like I said, this demands action. And as a student, I can't make any changes in regulation, but as a student and as a member of the community, I think that one of the solutions is starting a movement. So I'll elaborate a bit more on that. I'd say around a month ago, I made a post on my social media calling for my peers to join me on a journey to quit, right? And I was amazed by the number of responses, right? So what I got out of this is that people want to quit. Right, and all it took was one person reaching out, right? And the message was, what's that? 30 seconds? Alrighty, right. So the message was that if I was willing to do it, they would go in there with me, right? And it changed the point. Instead of doing it for myself, I was doing it for other people as well. Similarly, on a bigger scale, I think that as students, if we start a movement with the end goal being to stop this addiction, I think that we can get things done. And with the proper initiative from students and the proper initiative from at the administrative level, I think we could see an end to this cycle of addiction. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here.
Our next 3 are Naya Anlo Valdon, Cynthia Pacheco, and Lori Andrews. I'm sorry, I mispronounced your name.
President Noble, members of the board, and Superintendent Garcia. My name's Naya Anjovaldo. I'm a senior at Santa Fe High. Like Dylan, I will also be talking about the usage of vaping and e-cigarettes on our campus and just in our community in general. So I see this happening a lot around my campus and just like among my friends and peers. So that's, for me, is concerning, and as well as that, like Mr. Morano said, that it's starting at a younger age now. It's like they're seeing it in elementary and middle school children, which is even more concerning. And I think one of the biggest issues is I think people are aware, or younger children, they do hear about the negative effects, but I think that since the effects are more long-term and aren't immediate, it's easy to ignore, and it's easy to say like, oh, this isn't really bad and this isn't going to affect me in the long run. But and I also think that a lot of people think that it's like, oh, it's better than smoking cigarettes. It's not like the same thing. But I think that vaping and e-cigarettes haven't been around long enough to even like, so none of us can really fully understand the effects of them. And I think another problem is like most students and kids who start doing this is like, it's just like fun, and they don't realize that it actually can develop into an addiction and a serious problem. So I think that more awareness on just like the health effects would be helpful, as well as also on an administrative level in the schools. I think that as like it is a disciplinary issue and there should be consequences, I think it should also be treated as like a health issue since it is an addiction. And so students who are caught with these things more than once, like it should be addressed as more of an addiction rather than just like they get suspended. It should be like this is they have an addiction and they need to be helped in terms of their health. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Garcia, my name is Cynthia Pacheco. I'm an 11th grader at Santa Fe High School. First thing I want to announce tonight is that your Santa Fe High School JROTC team is again the state champions. For the 4th year in a row, we have overcome every adversity and we have triumphed. I know that each of you is as proud as I am, and we look forward to your invitation for the team to come here and be honored by the board. I want to especially thank President Noble and Secretary Garcia for their thoughtful messages to the team during the championship dinner last Friday night. President Noble, I read your message to the team. Secretary Garcia, your sentiments were expressed to the kids through Sheriff Mendoza. The sheriff actually stayed and gave a beautiful and motivating speech to the unit. The reason that I'm here tonight is because the unit needs to buy a vehicle. We need a vehicle that can haul cadets and a trailer, something like a Suburban. I don't know what the board policy is for purchase of vehicles. If you have to buy new, it looks like it's about $60,000. If you're allowed to buy a certified used, it's around $40,000. The reason that I'm coming to the board with this is to, again, address our difficulties in raising money. I stood here 1 year ago almost to the day. That was the day that I asked you to tread lightly when we discussed the NRA grant. Not because I was afraid of losing the $4,000. I trusted the assurances from this board that that base grant amount was covered. What I was afraid of is being tied to the NRA hostilities in this community. I watched that meeting again today. The words that you said to us that night, like the community will support you, we'll find the money, you can count on us, those words didn't take in our community. The words that did take in our community were words like, if you take NRA money, the blood of the Parkland kids is on your hands. The NRA promotes misogyny, racism, murder. Those are the words that have stuck, and those are the words that have followed the unit around. Our community was reluctant before that vote to support the unit. From that time to now, our community support has nearly evaporated. At the Fiesta Parade, while taking pictures of my son, I was called a warmongering parent. The unit was, on social media, the unit was called the evil spawn of the NRA. At a fundraising forum just 2 weeks ago, someone commented that he thought Steve Carrillo had run those gun-crazy kids out of the Santa Fe schools. Our pancake breakfast the month after that vote was a bust, despite the fact that it was an election year, and during election years, the pancake tickets, we almost can't get enough to sell. In contrast to previous years, we were not invited to the city council or the county commission to be recognized for our state championship. The actions that night didn't kill the program because we didn't let it die. You noted in your last meeting that the kids are going to San Diego. Navy paid lodging, students paid incidentals. For my family, that was $600. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent Garcia and members of the board. It's great to be here. I'm Lori Andrews, art teacher at Santa Fe High School. Been there 21 years, a teacher for 25 years. Yay! I haven't been up here in so long, and I wish I was up here addressing something inspirational. But I would like to actually add my 2 cents in toward this current crisis, I call it, this vaping crisis, as you will, because I've never seen anything like it. Trust me, I'm a teacher, I'm in the classroom, and I'm right in the war zone, as you say. So kids love gadgets, and kids love sweets. So put those two together and then add nicotine and or cannabis, and you have a perfect storm. A sweet-flavored, easy-to-purchase, hard-to-detect nicotine cannabis delivery system. I say welcome to the world of vaping, and that's truly what it is. So what do we do about this? I'm not going to spend too much time, but as a teacher, this is what I'd like to see. Members of the board and Superintendent Garcia, maybe start hosting, sponsoring, organizing parent-student informational forums. I don't know where they could be, maybe here or BF Young or at a school sites, to address vaping led by maybe local health professionals, not the law enforcement, that would be a turnoff, but I mean health professionals to really be able to answer questions about what is aerosol, what is this phenomenon called vaping? What are we putting into our lungs? I mean, students, do you have questions? We can give diagrams, we can tell you what this is about, but let's start sponsoring some of these forums. That would be a plus from a teacher's point of view. Second, please continue to support our administration and principals. Mr. Morano's at my school, and I know that he's inundated with processing kids that have these gadgets, kids that are vaping daily. It is not something he wants to keep doing. It's taking his time, and Santa Fe High School is an awesome school, and we need Principal Morano. We need him to be doing other things. We've got graduation approaching, seniors getting their credits done. We don't need to constantly be monitoring kids who are sneaking and using these devices. So please support principals, and let's take this to a higher level, okay? And last, I would like to maybe see stiffer consequences for students that are repeated offenders with these devices and not have those consequences be voluntary, but have them be mandatory. All right, thank you very much, but go Demons, I love you guys. I'm sorry I was so negative.
Thank you.
President Noble, that concludes public forum.
Just really quick, Madam President, if I may.
Yes, Secretary Garcia.
Once again, thank you for everybody coming forward. Mr. Morano, Mr. Ramirez, and Mrs. Arvado, thank you for coming forward. Appreciate that. Thank you for coming forward and speaking. That's very brave.
Okay, moving on the agenda, we are at item 6, the union update. And Grace Mayer is here.
Good evening. I'm Grace Mayer, NEA Santa Fe president and art teacher at Milagro Middle School. First, I want to announce, and you guys probably already saw it on the website, but our first NEA Santa Fe sponsored ESP of the Month award was given to Carol Calm at El Dorado El Dorado Community School. Dr. Garcia helped present that award. We're honored to showcase our extremely gifted and dedicated educational support personnel, which includes our bus drivers, our secretaries, our nutrition staff, our librarians, our educational assistants, and nurses, food service, yes. I think I got everybody. But we would also like to ask the community at large if they would like to help us recognize some of our ESPs by donating some gift cards or some other things. We're going to try to contact some local businesses or any other people that are interested, that own a business, that want to give out a gift card or something to honor them. We'd welcome that as part of recognizing their dedication to the district and to the students of Santa Fe Public Schools. NEA Santa Fe also has the Peggy Jones Memorial Scholarship, and we just gave out 3 awards to 3 different people, and I'm going to name them in a minute and talk to you a little bit about the scholarship. We award 5 scholarships that are available each year to help pay for classes taken during the spring semester at an accredited college or university. The scholarship maximum awards are $300. Peggy Jones was a former teacher and an NEA member, and she and her family gave us money so that we could generate these awards, and so it's in her honor that we can present these awards. And for years we've done it. This year we have 3 awards that were granted to Aoife Runyon, who's a digital learning coach currently at Salazar and Sweeney. Her goals is that she wants to improve education through the use of STEM and educational technology. She is getting a degree in organization, information, and learning sciences, and some other, like 4 other things. So she's working towards a master's degree, and we're happy to tell you that she's also on our executive board as well for NEA. Autumn Moya, she's a teacher at Cesar Chavez. She's looking to get her TESOL endorsement, and she's getting a master's degree in curriculum and instruction. And so this will help in some small way. Randy Griot, he is doing graduate work toward educational leadership degrees, and his goal is to become a principal in Santa Fe Public Schools in the near future. He's been a teacher for 21 years. And we're really honored to give these awards out, and we want to make sure that next year when we do this, we can give out 5. A lot of times, I don't think people understand that we have community outreach and other things in our local, and we can provide some awards like this that go towards students or towards, in this case, educators and employees of the district. And this is open to anyone who's willing to take courses for a certificate or degree. It doesn't have to be necessarily, it's an advancement in their career. So like our nutrition workers or our other secretaries can also apply that are part of the bargaining unit. And if they're taking classes to help in some way with their education. There's a few other things I'd like to talk about this evening. On a broad issue, just about some of the changes that we're going to be encountering with the new educational laws that are going to be in effect, including an extended school year and districts applying for those opportunities, which I do believe it's an opportunity, but it's going to be very difficult and very sensitive to implement. And I'm hoping that the board works with the union, and I know the superintendent's already reached out, and Ms. Sink, who is our lead negotiator, about concerns about how we're going to move forward with this. 25 days is a pretty broad expansion of what we currently do. And some of the law has strings attached to it, which may make implementation a little more sensitive. And I would like for us to sort of move towards something that is comprehensive, but also sensitive to our employees, who they're currently overworked. I think the raise and some other things that have been implemented will help. But when we talk about mandatory extension of their contract, we have to then think about, okay, leave days being extended, other things being looked at. Some of these employees may become 12-month employees, which is a big shift from 9.5 months. I mean, it's 11.5, but in actuality, if you have to go into July because of the holiday, and then August, you start again with the new school year. So there's a couple weeks in there. And so I am just here to help, I guess, bring attention to the issue, but I would like for us to think about maybe sending out surveys to different school sites where we're considering doing K5+ and seeing what kind of feelings the staff there has about that. The law also included, that there would be a counselor and a nurse that would be part of these programs. That's very difficult, as wellness staff and lead nurse knows. When we can barely sort of service the 182-day contract that we have, but hopefully, we'll have those individuals who are interested in working in those schools. Some of the strings that are attached, hopefully the PED is going to be flexible in implementation and that we can phase it in the way they want it within a few years. But right now we are using, well, generally people can apply from any school to work in these, what used to be considered summer school contracts. But now with this new law, they want it to be the teacher of record. That's the teacher giving the extended learning time. And that's going to be challenging for us. We have vacancies all year that haven't been filled. And the impact of even 1 or 2 vacancies at a school influences, the education of the students there, as well as the employment of the individuals there. They're doing extra work. They're, working with substitutes to make sure the curriculum is appropriate. So I am a little concerned that this moved forward in the way it did, but I'm here to work with the district and with the superintendent and our employees to make it go as smoothly as we can. And I think it still is an opportunity, but I think that we have to really address our staff in a way that makes them want to sort of participate in the challenge of it, as opposed to sort of run away and leave us, because we also have all the challenges that we always did, or in the last decade, of being underpaid and having the highest cost of living in the state. So we're not really attracting people, and the people that are here that have dedicated themselves to this district need to stay here. And I'm hoping that they do choose to stay here. But we have to really implement this in a way that makes it desirable, as opposed to an avalanche of more work. I think everybody that decides they're going into education has already made a commitment that they're going to, work, that's their life's work, to improve children's lives and to, sort of rise to that challenge. But people want to see that, they want to feel and believe they can be successful and they can have an impact. But if they're overwhelmed and there's not enough breaks and there's too many challenges, then they start to walk away. And we can't have any more of that happening, because we have a retiring workforce, and we're hoping that those people that are close to retirement will put in the next 5 years if the pay is good enough and we can sort of maybe again boost some of our salary tables with some of the money that we inserted last time. We worked on our salary tables for our the majority of our educators in the teacher pay table by adding, if you recall, monies into the steps. And we'd like to keep that money there, but we're going to have to dig deep and figure out how to keep that money there. Because just going to the tiers isn't going to keep the people that are 10, 15, 20 years, feeling that they're supported. And, because the upper tier, the upper part of those couple of years, they're going to get well over a 6% raise, where if we compact the salary table, and they only get 6 after 20 years or 25, that's kind of like telling our most experienced, most desirable people and the people that are here that, we don't necessarily value you as much, and if you want more money, you need to work for it. And I know that's not what the legislature kind of intended, but I think that's where we are. So I'm asking the board if we can work together to try to find resources to keep that money in the table. And also we worked on getting all our staff to be at $12 an hour minimum, and we talked about working towards getting to 15 in a few years. So I'm hoping that even with the 6% raise, we can do a little better for our employees, like we did last year, and maybe go to 13, and in the case of our bus drivers, go to 15 because we're close enough, or even more. But so we're starting to get into bargaining. We met a little bit about just preliminary things, and we've discussed some issues, but we're going to start in earnest probably next week. And that is probably all I need to say. I stand for any questions if you have any.
And just remind me, the full contract is not open this year, it's next year, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Board Member Carrillo.
Question, Ms. Mayor. I know that the legislature did not appropriate nearly enough money in what was recommended relative to teacher raises or the tiers. I know that we were looking at 45, 55, and 65, and I know that the National School Board, or the State School Board Association was looking at 50, 60, 70, and in her flawed wisdom, Mimi Stewart and others took it down to 40, 50, 60. And so the question, in so doing, continue to make our state uncompetitive with surrounding states. So I'm curious, because I don't know the answer to this, do the surrounding states as well have K3 or K5 plus different programs where teachers may or may not be asked to work an 11.5-month year? Because it seems like that could also make us uncompetitive. While yes, there are teachers that want to do that, I imagine there are some that are also in the profession because they do get, especially if they have children, some break. So what's your knowledge of the surrounding states and the extent to which they're working maybe 11.5 months?
Well, most of them have some sort of summer school programs that go for 2 to 4 weeks, not necessarily for elementary, but there's usually extended years for maybe some special ed students or, various other groups that might need English language acquisition. I know in Colorado and Arizona there are such programs like a Jump Start and things like that for high school as well. But they did receive, because they went on strike, 10% raises across the board. And we did the tier jumps, the 40, 50, 60. I mean, level 2 teachers are going from 34 to 40, which is significant, and everyone else is getting a 6% raise. So I would have liked a 10% raise, and I think that's what I'm sort of hinting at with the board, is I think we need to dig deep and figure out how to get those of us that are 10 years and to 30 and 40, a 10% raise like the top of those tiers. But I think that I've talked to a few people who are considering retiring, and with the raises, and if we can keep the money in the tiers that we have currently, that they have changed their mind. So I'm hoping we get that, and I'm hoping that they think it's significant enough to stay for 5 years to make that their top 5. I mean, there was going to be a 3-year sort of phase-in up to 62,000 for the 3 and whatever, but they got rid of that, which is unfortunate. And I was told that the rationale was that somehow they couldn't approve a budget that went into future years because it's something else. But then we just passed a minimum wage bill that does the same thing, so I don't really see the difference. But, There is an influx of money also in the at-risk factor that's of the SEG, and I'm hoping that money will be realized somehow in our district. I know the superintendent and other people, and here went to the spring workshop. I don't know how successful they were in understanding how much money we were getting, but again, I mean, I think that it was a good start, and I wish it would have had a momentum to go further, but we are where we are, and we're just going to have to figure it out. I think for people just starting out, maybe working that 5 weeks is not an issue, and there has been K3 plus at 8 of our schools for a long time, and people have worked in those programs. We're going to need a lot more. That's what I mean about the flexibility. We're hoping that there's flexibility, that it doesn't have to be the same teacher. It can be a district qualified employee, because that's what we've been doing in the past.
Thank you.
Board Member Cashman.
Before I ask my question, does anyone else want to talk to the union? I'm just
raising your hand.
Madam President, I would just like, Grace, if you can actually give me a couple of letters or several letters so I can assist you in soliciting local businesses for prizes or whatnot.
Oh, great.
I'd like
Great.
to help with that. Thank you.
I'll send that right to you. We have emails. I can send it to you on an email. I have a digital one.
I was just going to ask, I know we talked about it, but I see our Demon basketball team sitting here, and I'm sure lots of them have homework tonight, and it's a little bit going on that maybe we could move them up in the schedule, and before we do student board member update and the rest of us trying to, so they can maybe get home and get
I can go away, Maureen.
No, I think you're done, but I'm just saying.
I heard at the beginning of the meeting that I was missed, so.
Oh, well, you were, and I did miss you.
Okay, well, have a good evening.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. And maybe it's starting with the acknowledgement of our elders or that sort of thing, and the promise of the future, but I'm feeling a great deal of gratitude tonight, and Grace carries a big load in the voice that she brings to the district, of the staff, and just want to appreciate all that you do and your commitment and dedication, words that you use to describe many teachers and many of the staff that are here, and I think that that's very true for you. Does anyone object to what Board Member Cashman proposed, that we move up the superintendent announcements?
No.
So that we can recognize our heroes from Santa Fe High. So we're going to superintendent announcements now.
Oh, thank you, Madam President, members of the board, and if it's the pleasure of the board, I'll just do the ones relating to Santa Fe High, and then we can go back to the order, and then I'll finish with the rest of my announcements. So I'd like to recognize, we're going to give out 2 certificates, and I want to talk about them, and then we'll have you all come down and we'll take a picture. As you all, I mean, you'd have to have been, I don't know, sleeping to not know that Santa Fe High made history and brought a lot of pride and excitement and community cohesion and tremendous excitement at the basketball tournament, the NMA state championship tournament. For the first time in 41 years, they played for the state championship, and they came in second, and we are so proud of your effort, but more proud of how you all conducted yourselves on the court and off the court, the sportsmanship exhibited. I think those of you that know me know that that's more important to me than winning, is really, your conduct, how you represent our district. And I think you all know that we hold our student athletes to a higher standard than the rest of the student body. And you all were gentlemen on and off the court, and I couldn't have been prouder to be superintendent of this district and the way you all conducted yourselves, and that you did so well to have achieved, to have won a district, to go on to play at the state level, and to have made it all the way to the final game. You guys are #1 in our books and what you did for this community. And look out for 2020, right? We're so excited about that. So we have a certificate for you all. We want to have you come up and take a picture. But at the same time, we have another honor. And that is that your basketball coach, our basketball coach for the Santa Fe Demons, Zach Cole, is the 2019 Boys 5A Coach of the Year by the NewMexicoPreps.com. And that's super exciting. And so I'd like us to, congratulations also to the principal, Carl Morano, and to our director of athletics and activities, Larry Chavez, everybody associated with this team. Just so proud of you all. So if we can come down and take a picture, and let's hear it for the Demons.
Madam President, just really quick before, because it seems like everybody disappears after we take a picture, but parents, you guys are all welcome to come up and take pictures. I would just like to, first of all, thank we talked to Sheriff Mendoza prior to you guys heading out to Albuquerque, as well as all the other public safety officials that gave you all an escort, anywhere from sheriff, city police, to state police, I believe. Thank you all for that. Coach Cole, congratulations. You did an excellent job. You should be very proud of yourself and very proud of your team. I guess nobody's listening to me.
I was going to say, we all probably have something to say.
So, hey, gentlemen, you guys have to get to the middle here because she knows she won't go down there, so if you can scoot towards the middle so she can be in the middle. There's no space for her. Thank you.
And before you all go, I just want to say, as a Santa Fe High School graduate, thank you. This brought people together in a way. It brought out my classmates to the game. I was seeing the pictures from all sorts of different proud graduating Demons. So this is like community building in a powerful, powerful way, and you did that. And so from everybody who followed you, who enjoyed the games, it was amazing, and thank you for what you did for Santa Fe and for Santa Fe High. Thank you.
Just really quick, Madam President, just once again, Coach Cole, your staff, principals, all your fan base out there. And gentlemen, there's some individuals that you need to thank, and that's your parents and your guardians, because without them, they took you everywhere, they supported you. So once again, gentlemen, congratulations. Awesome job, Coach.
So, okay, so we go back and do the agenda, and then we'll pick up on the superintendent announcements. Okay, so that takes us to student board members' announcements and follow-up. Ms. Torres.
Okay, I actually do have a short list today, but to start off, Stephanie Chano, senior AVID student, was chosen out of hundreds of students to be the AVID Summer Institute student speaker for the Denver conference this summer. She will speak to an audience with over 5,000 people and telling about her experience with Avid and how it's helped her succeed. This Friday, April 5th, Capital will have an annual student art exhibition at the Georgia O'Keeffe Annex, and this will start at 6 p.m. And 2 seniors were just awarded a full ride scholarship from the Daniels Fund. And a girl named Eileen Rodriguez won first place in the Native category in the Future Voices of New Mexico Film Contest for her film Law for It.
Wow.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. There's some great accolades there. Anything else? No? Good. Do we have any board announcements and follow-up? All right, Secretary Garcia.
Madam President, also, if the superintendent can just check with us and see who, the lady, Mrs. Cindy, that talked about the van, how that actually works and how the procurement issues work on that. I would like to know that and have a follow-up with that. Also, if we can actually give a certificate to each one of the basketball players. I don't know if we plan on doing that instead of just giving 2 certificates, if we can give a certificate to each one of the players. I think that would be great. I have one more thing, but I'll bring it up with you later. We're good. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we are back to superintendent announcements and follow-up.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. We'd like to just recognize Richard Helford. He had to, kick in at a time when it was very difficult for the district, late May of last year. And we reorganized in a way that we did not fill his previous position, and did a fine job as interim chief financial officer. And I wanted to present the certificate to him and to thank him for his leadership. He will continue in a new reorganized Business and Services office as Deputy Chief Financial Officer. So just like to recognize Mr. Helford, if that would be all right.
Board Member Carrillo.
We can take a picture.
So I just want to say, in 8 years on the board, Richard, you've just always been a complete joy to work with. Straight shooter, answering the questions we need answered, working on budget, and it's just a real joy to work with you and to have you in the district. Thank you.
Also, Madam President, I would like to echo some words that I would also like to echo the words that Board Member Carrillo mentioned earlier. You actually, the new gentleman that's actually starting with you definitely needs to pick your brain, because he knows, he smiles back there, because he can't just jump in here like any other CEO can jump in here and do it without the institutional knowledge that you have in this district. That's very, 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 very valuable to any institution, is institutional knowledge. I know that where I come from, and it definitely helps out, but thank you for being Richard. Great job.
Thank you. Thanks.
And we actually had our first meeting today, and it's very much a part of the team. So thank you, Richard.
Do you want to say anything, Richard? We all appreciate, and I will just add my voice. You answer questions simply and clearly, and that is what a board member wants most of all, particularly where finance is concerned. So thank you.
Okay. Well, I just want to say thank you. This is a surprise. I thought I was just here for one more consent agenda. So it definitely was a bit of a surprise, but I do appreciate it. And I appreciate Dr. Garcia for giving me the opportunity back in May. Thank you.
Thank you for your service. Dr. Garcia.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I'm going to go quickly. I have quite a bit because we've combined, as you know now, announcements and update. So Santa Fe High School NJRO2C marksmanship team are the all-service national champions, and then they just won a state championship on Saturday. So we will have them here next week, and I will go in more detail at that time. A Capital High School refugee trip, just so that you're aware. I think you were, I think, notified about it, but Capital High School teacher Meredith Tilp, AP Government and Policy teacher, organized a trip to Las Cruces to help with refugees who had been released by ICE from Honduras, Nicaragua, and Guatemala. They assisted about 40 refugees. Capital High students wore T-shirts that were deseamos seguridad y paz. We desire safety and peace. And This was done through DECA. They got $3,000 worth of donations, and very proud of them for that work. We've already introduced the CFO. Santa Fe Public Schools received a 2019 Best Communities for Music Education Award. This is the 6th consecutive year that Santa Fe Public Schools has received this award from the National Association of Music Merchants. So proud of that. We have our unofficial results from the EdTech Note Update. Unofficial results show for ETN, 29,250 voted in the election. There were 29,188 ballots that were counted. Voting for were 17,163 and 12,025 voting against. We ran thank you letters that ran in both the Santa Fe New Mexican and the Journal North, and we are moving forward with the Santa Fe Public Schools Election Steering Committee, and we intend to have a thank you breakfast at one of our schools in April, so be watching for that date and kicking off of the steering committee, because as I've said, there's 12,000 people out there that voted no, and we want to reach those people and engage them and better understand what concerns are and how we can better communicate with our public. But again, thank you to the voters of Santa Fe County. Unfortunately, Socorro just lost theirs, and so there are more losses than the win column. So thank you to you all for your support, and to our community that so greatly supported the Santa Fe Public Schools. Mark your calendars, and Alma may have already sent this out, but the Santa Fe Public Schools Volunteer Appreciation Celebration is Thursday, April 11th from 4 to 6 at the Santa Fe High School Commons Building. Please RSVP to Sabra Romero, or actually you could just RSVP to Alma. That would be easier, and she'll let Sabra know. April 11th, Thursday, next week, in the Commons area. I also want to inform you that tomorrow we will be having the SAC training for the SACs here at 4 p.m. in the boardroom. We also were notified today that the governor will be signing Senate Bill 1 and House Bill 5 and House Bill 589. Senate Bill 1 and HB 5 are the bills that contain most of the educational reform, and HB 589 is the Community Schools Act. I don't know if we've heard, and I'm going to ask Ruth Williams, we haven't heard when she's signing House Bill 2 yet, right? Because House Bill 2 is really the budget bill. So we're waiting to see what kind of language is there. But this will be at Salazar Elementary tomorrow at 10 a.m. Please let me know if you intend to attend, only because the governor would want to acknowledge any dignitaries there. Please, if you do plan on coming, please be there no later than 9:45 tomorrow. So before you leave today, let me know if it is your intent to attend. We will not be speaking. I do not believe. They'll have the sponsors of the bill there, so we would just be there in attendance. Let me keep moving here. There will be a Public Education Department Town Hall on building communities of support for young parents and their children. We were asked to make this announcement. This will be April 4th, 8:30 to 4:30 at the UNM Student Union Building. And 6 Capitol High School grad students will be present, talking about mother tongue and young parent voices. And I would imagine that we're going to have representation from the district. Sue O'Brien will also be there. Capitol High School Art Exhibit. The 5th annual Capitol High School Student Art Exhibit and opening will be held on Friday, April the 5th at the Georgia O'Keeffe Annex on Grant Avenue. Out-of-state travel. It says out-of-state travel, but no travel. I don't know. I guess we're not traveling out of state. There's nothing there following it. So Ruth, if you happen to have it, you might bring it up to me. Capitol High School DECA. I'm sorry. There it is. Forgive me, Ruth. DECA's going to Orlando, Florida, April 26th through May 1st. Pinon Elementary Robotics Team to Louisville, Kentucky, April 27th through May 1st. Early College Opportunities to Austin, Texas, April 3rd through the 7th. Then we were asked, I think Secretary Noble
at that time you were you were board member Noble, now you're President Noble, about excused and unexcused absences and how we get the information out. These brochures are available at the schools, and the schools have them. We're asking for the schools to provide that information in their newsletters. They're supposed to have them at the desks with the secretaries, but we are asking the schools to please follow up. I'm not going to go into the detail of excused and unexcused absences and then how they are counted for us in terms of our accountability, but we're making sure that all of those will be present. I can't remember if you got this letter or not, but I want to make sure you have a copy of it. I think I told you about it, but now it's actually happening. The copy in terms of the LFC visit to Santa Fe Public Schools. I think it's a copy, but yeah, maybe. But what I do want to make sure is that you're aware there is a tremendous amount of information that they have asked us to provide for the LFC. What are you looking for? And I don't think that's the original. So there's another copy there. So they have asked for volumes and volumes of information. So not only are we building budget, we are preparing for this audit. And they're looking at everything from governance to how the board operates and its policies to the reforms that have been put in place, what kinds of outcomes we're getting. I mean, it's a top to bottom review of the district, and they're doing North Central school districts right now. But just FYI, staff right now are really stretched pretty thin with budget prep, school end of year stuff, but also this audit is taking a tremendous amount of time. And that concludes my announcements for today. Oh, one more thing. Here, it's provided electronically, but if you would like a copy of the strategic plan, I'm very proud of it, very professionally done, I think, due to the staff's work and Ruth for the layout and putting this together. The work plans, the staff are monitoring. We're having a 2-day, we have a retreat next week with the district leaders on our work plan of where we are on the strategic plan. We are sending copies to our community leaders and legislature as well, so that they're aware of where we're moving with the district. And the Ode to Joy that was mentioned, here are copies for that invitation. And that concludes my announcements and updates, Madam President and members of the board.
Yes, Board Member Torres.
Looking at this, I was wondering, does the provided written copies, is that an explanation of why the student was not at school? Thank you.
Here, I've got one here.
Mr. Gephardt, I'm going to ask you if you can help answer this. So explain your question. Could you restate your question, please?
Yeah, so on the first page in the middle, the second bullet point says that we need a written copy of why. Is that why the student was absent? Do we need to explain why? Do the parents need to explain why?
I actually had the same question, so thank you.
President Noble, members of the board. So what to do when your child is absent? It does say provide written copies of excused absences to the front desk, but also, calling in counts as well. If your student is sick, you can call them in. Now, if it's a prolonged absence or something, we would need something.
So we might just, I guess,
clarify
in the future
that.
when we update it, that's
Okay.
a good catch, and I think we can make it clear that these are the ways you can contact.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for asking that.
Anything else? Okay, moving on. We are at the consent agenda.
Madam President, move for approval.
Is there a second?
And this discussion, I'd like to thank the superintendent and the staff for actually working out the fence with Sweeney Elementary. I saw that's one of the line items, so thank you.
Vice President Price.
Can someone tell me, under contracts for board approval, can someone please tell me what is a sensory swing?
I believe those are, have to do with occupational therapy, is my understanding. You know, they have the sensory chairs, all, you know, but it has to do with occupational therapy for our special ed students.
Thank you. And
Yes, Vice President Price.
under the minutes,
Yes.
Where's it? Did I miss it? I wrote it.
Tab E.
Oh, okay, thank you. As a correction, yeah, this was a long meeting. I meant to mark it, but it's under, oh, yes. Page 2, G, it says 62 medical students. It shouldn't read medical students. Okay, thank you.
So there is a motion for approval and a second, and I believe that those can include Vice President Price's correction to the minutes there. We'll do a roll call vote. Board Member Carrillo?
Yes.
Board Member Cashman?
Yes.
Secretary Garcia?
Yes.
Vice President Price?
Yes.
And the President votes yes.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board.
Oops. Thank you. We're moving on now to item 11, action items. Item A is the second reading and approval of amended policy 103, officers of the board duties.
Madam Chair, I think we already heard this. This is the second reading. If nobody doesn't mind, I'd like to just make a motion for approval to be in compliance with the state legislature 2018 House Bill 98.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Madam President, if I may, when I was going to introduce Ms. Sullivan, and you all know her, but for the record, I wanted to introduce our General Counsel, Lisa Sullivan, for working on, and she's working on these policies, but I also want to recognize Ms. Sullivan as well. She's moving on and to General Counsel for the Public Education Department. And April, what's your last date?
Mid-April.
Mid-April, so I guess we're being flexible here. But I did talk to Ms. Sullivan what legally could I do if I didn't accept her resignation. And she said, I really didn't have a whole lot of options. You know? Yeah, she's an indentured servant. We talked about a lot of different things, but having been in the para system and getting back in, I think is also important. But we're certainly going to miss her and thank her for her service.
Thanks.
Vice President Price.
Thank you for being patient with me and explaining things to me very carefully. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And I'm going to miss you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being patient with all of us. And the PED is lucky to have you, and good luck there.
Thank you, President Noble.
Okay, we are moving to policy number changing 347 to 350, the bilingualism and biliteracy state seal. This is it appears to be a policy change number. Ms. Sullivan, do you want to give us a brief explanation?
Yes, in early 2017, administrative staff presented a policy 347 titled District Support for Student Regional and National Competitions. And at the time that the bilingualism biliteracy seal policy was adopted, it was unclear in our records that 347 was not in fact available, so we're renumbering it to 350.
Thank you very much.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion for approval.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Ms. Sullivan.
You're welcome.
Yes. Vice President Price would like to take a break. I could use one. Let's do a 5-minute break. We will come back at 7:20.
Closer? Yes. Start training at 4 o'clock p.m. tomorrow. Here, right? The SAC training's here tomorrow? Yeah. Yep. Yeah. No problem. I don't,
Okay, we're coming back. A few minutes late, but, you know, can aspire to 5-minute bathroom breaks or leg stretching breaks. We are now on item 12, board discussion and possible action. And item A under that is changes to board meetings for engagement and efficiency. And I am the name after that. And I just wanted to ask my fellow board members to think about what changes we might make to make our meetings more efficient and engaging. It's something that I'm thinking about, and it's something that I know Dr. Garcia and her staff have thought about, and I've discussed with some parents, and you know, our meetings I think function fairly well, but you know, anything from reordering to how we treat study sessions, how we treat business meetings, in terms of contracts. Obviously, I think you all know what we need to do, that there's a certain amount that needs to move through and be approved in order for the district staff to do their work. But really, it's just a request for any thoughts, ideas around how we might improve and engage in a continual process improvement process about our board meetings. So that's all I have. And if there's nothing on that, we can move.
By email, just send you an email, or
that would be
have a
great.
coffee
Yeah,
or whatever. All right.
Either way, however you want to engage, I'm very happy to. Okay, and moving on to item B, immunization rates. Board Member Carrillo.
So to make a really bad pun, this issue has gone viral. No, so the I say that because of just the thank you, because of the emails that I received, and then the news was, it's like, and it is. I mean, I'm sure that Board Member Price or Vice President Price will remember 4 years ago, we led the districts in New Mexico when we decided kids were not going to be allowed in school after that first week if they didn't prove either immunization or have those different exceptions recorded, officially recorded. And then other districts followed suit with us. So the reason this is here, obviously there's been a measles outbreak in the United States, primarily in Washington State, and it's because of the anti-vaxxers. So essentially, the reason this is here is just to have a discussion about what maybe more we can do. And I would love it to be actually a discussion as opposed to just my saying all this. What more, maybe what more do y'all want to do? I mean, can we legally eliminate conscientious objection as one of the reasons?
Excuse me for 1 second. Ms. Sullivan, I really need your attention on this one, please. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call you out, but he's making some points about vaccination and having a discussion, but can we exceed what's in statute, that sort of thing?
So I know that my understanding is right now we definitely have, there's that religious exception, you need a note from your pastor or priest or whatever, and then there's also obviously medical, and I understand there's also conscientious objection. Is that still the case? Because
So would you, or Ms. Hett, would you like to, and then I think when we ask the question, can we do more, Ms. Sullivan? But go ahead, Ms. Hett.
Superintendent, President, and board members, there is no actual conscientious objector exemption any longer. There is a personal religious beliefs exception that you can apply for through the Department of Health. That requires that you write on the actual application what your personal religious beliefs are, and then you send that into the Department of Health, and they either approve it or disapprove it. So New Mexico is one of the few states that does not allow straight across conscientious objector exemptions.
Okay. Thank you. I'm happy to hear that we don't.
You're welcome.
And but being in Santa Fe, I'm wondering how many religions we come up with, and just I don't know. But that's kind of a flippant remark to make. But it's very, very serious, and that's why this is here. So the idea that I had, and this is an idea, right? As the board discusses many ideas all the time, and some of them come to fruition, and some don't. Was it that on our website we post the percentage of kids at a given school that are not vaccinated? No personal information, no HIPAA violations, no ideas or no listing of this many were religious, this many were medical. Just if there's 300 kids and 45, or it wouldn't be that, I mean I would hope not, 300 kids, and if there are 15 that are not vaccinated, that's 5%, right? So then somebody can look on the website and say 5% of the kids at this school are not vaccinated. However, if there's because I as a parent, if there was a school that had 40% of the kids not vaccinated, I wouldn't send my kid there. And this is a very serious issue. And it's, and I thought that a lot of stuff was settled after the last big outbreak in this country, and it's not. And now it's catching more momentum again. So, I mean, my feeling is that we are not just in charge of K-12 education for our kids, but we're also in charge of their health and safety, especially while they're in our care. So for me, it would be a dereliction of our duty to have children that are not, to have too many children in one given place that are not vaccinated in our schools. And so the idea was initially just to have it on the website, percentage vaccination rate for our schools. Can we do that? It would seem like we can because there's no private information at all being given. Does anyone else want to take this up? Does anyone else even see this as an issue? I would hope you see it as an issue because...
I just have one question for the staff. Ms. O'Brien or Ms. Hett. What percent of our student population right now have exemptions?
Currently, our district has 2.1% exemptions.
District-wide?
District-wide.
Which is fairly low. So when you start breaking that out by school, you're going to start showing 0.02%, whatnot. So I would say If I were an anti-vaxxer, I would want to go to a school that had high immunization rate for the herd immunity, and it would probably attract a non-vaxxer to go to a place that has highly vaccinated. So I don't know. I mean, I think that you have to think, will that help the situation? I don't know if it helps getting people to become more vaccinated, because at the school level, we're doing everything we can. And we are following the law, and we do send the letters, and we do get compliance when we do. I do know what the state exemption rate is.
I do not off the top of my head.
So,
the
you know,
county?
roughly our student population is around 12,400 kids. Let's just say it's 12,000 for easy math, right? So, you know, 1%, you know, would be about 120 kids, 2% is 240 kids. So district-wide, it's about that many children. Now, all it takes is one kid not being vaccinated. However, out in the community, anywhere you go, that is also the situation, right? So, I haven't really thought about an opinion about it one way or the other. I think the real issue is how many kids are we really talking about? So it's a very low percentage, but it just takes one. And
Well, I'm
I don't
happy
know
to
that
hear.
it'll help compliance or not.
I'm very happy to hear it's that low. And
We work on it.
no, I know, and it's because of the policies when people are and families are registering that we're vigilant about that. So I would applaud the board that was sitting here 4 years ago for taking those initial steps. Do you know a county number? Just curious. I think if ours is 2.1, what is the county?
I don't know what the county number is. I do know that the district rate is lower than the general county percentage, just because of our work towards that, and the rates in the private and charter schools are higher, but it may be because they don't have school nurses that really, you know, take charge on immunization compliance in those areas. I know if parents are interested in getting rates, the CDC does have information by county. Okay, yeah.
And do we?
Cashman.
I'm sorry.
Oh. Board Cashman.
I wasn't done.
Oh, sorry.
So I would imagine that we have those rates by school.
Yeah.
It's just a question of whether or not we put them on a website. And because it's so low, because it is 2.1%, maybe for us this is a non-issue. And if it's a non-issue, that's fantastic, that we're so vigilant about compliance.
I do have the county rates now they're from 2015, so they're a little bit outdated, but Santa Fe County was 2.6 and the Santa Fe School District was 2.1 back then. And Los Alamos, however, is at 3.1. Taos County is at 3.2, while Taos Public Schools at that time was 2.0 and Los Alamos was 2.3. So we're still doing.
So on the school side, it sounds like we're doing great.
Yeah, we're doing great.
Terrific. That's very good news.
Are you finished there? Okay, Board Member Cashman.
I want to first of all thank the staff for keeping up on this, because it is something that every year we need to keep up on. So I applaud you for doing that. I think we need to constantly be vigilant and keep on doing it. I guess I would prefer not to put them on the site, but I would like the board to be notified if those numbers all of a sudden crept up, because, you know, I at least from what I read in the paper, we need 95% of our kids to have that herd immunity, and there are some very legitimate reasons on why people aren't vaccinated. But if we started to get closer to that 5%, then I think the board would need to be informed so we can figure out what we're going to do, because we, you know, we don't want to have somebody pick up a virus or you know, that is preventable, and we didn't do our due diligence. So right now I think the numbers are great. I know they weren't like that before we started that policy, so the staff worked really hard, but just for me as a board member, I just want to be informed when they started to creep up you know, in the 4% range, then we've got to get on top of it and figure out why they're creeping back up.
Vice President Price.
I want to commend you on the work that you and the school nurses are doing. I'm
Thank
very,
you.
very proud. And I'm very proud of our rates here. I wish it was 0. I think it's totally irresponsible of a lot of people who depend on herd immunity and don't vaccinate their children. But that's neither here nor there. But I also want to know, do you have plans if we get a case? Do you have emergency plans? What are you going to do?
If there is a case that, if the student is presented at school, the student would be immediately placed in a secure area where they would not come in contact with other students. And we would contact the parent. I mean, obviously, we don't diagnose measles in the school setting. However, if we suspect...
It's not difficult.
If we suspect that it exists, our protocol is to contact the parent and contact the student's provider and let them know we suspect there's a case of measles. And then we would assist that student in getting seen. They wouldn't want to see the student in the doctor's office either, because then, you know, it's highly contagious.
Highly contagious for how many hours in the same room?
Oh gosh.
I think it's a long...
It's a long period
like
of time,
almost
just
2 days.
breathing, just breathing the same air, passing. It's been spread in the airport, just walking through the airport. So, but if a student is diagnosed with the measles in the district, we work with the Department of Health, and the Department of Health would provide guidance with our school health advocate to probably exclude students that are not immunized from the school where the student was in attendance.
Did you say probably, or that's your plan?
Well, it would happen. The Department of Health would assist in doing that. So that is important to note, is that if a student is identified in the school, students that are not vaccinated will be excluded for their safety until the incubation period of the last known case passes. And also siblings, students that are in schools with the siblings of the affected student would also be excluded because of the risk to those unvaccinated students.
Once again, I commend you and all of the school nurses for the hard work you've done here.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I thank you for acknowledging their hard work. They do it. Immunization compliance is a constant battle that they're working on, and it's not just the school nurses, but the school nurse aides that work with the nurses, and obviously the principals who help support immunization compliance in the schools.
One other quick question. If a person had measles as a child, are they immune now?
Yes.
Thank you.
However, however, it is recommended that you consult with your physician and see if a booster is recommended, especially if the measles does come to New Mexico, because you never know if it was a true case of the measles or if it was you could always get a titer drawn to see if you are actually immune.
Board Member Cashman.
Just a follow-on question when Board Member Price was talking to you. For the students that have exemptions, do we talk with the parents at all and at least let them know that if a measles case presented itself, their kids are going to be out of school for a while? I mean, do we sort of try to inform them so then they maybe think, well, maybe this isn't such a good thing to do?
We do, on the exemption application, it does acknowledge that that would be the case. So in applying for the exemption, if they read it, it does state that. However, the nursing staff are also, always trying to educate parents as much as possible.
On that point, Board Member Cashman, if I may, Madam President, but the kids go to their pediatricians or they have their health provider. And I know that there has been talk that some providers are saying they may not let the children even come into the care if they're not immunized. But so I think they also get it from their healthcare providers. That sort of, these are the consequences of not vaccinating.
Board Member Carrillo.
Well, then I guess we don't need to do that, post on the websites. But I just, I'm happy we had the discussion. We learned more about what our protocol is going to be, should anything happen in these percentages in our schools. And also, seems like even though like the county of Los Alamos or Taos, even though it's higher, in the schools, we're being really vigilant. So that's really great news to hear. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item C, e-cigarettes rules and compliance. Board Member Carrillo.
This is here because, I don't know, Carl and I have been hanging out over basketball a lot lately, and we got to talking about this being just a huge challenge at not only at Santa Fe High School, but also our other schools. And what can we do about this? And I remember being at football games. It's it's much more obvious in a gym if someone tries to, toke up with their vape or their, what do they call their e-cigarette. But at the football game, you kind of have, you see this little puff come from somewhere over in the stands, and you smell that it's like sour cherries or bubble gum or some flavor that's being marketed to kids. And, but what are we going to do about it? Because it's now it's gotten to a point where I think there needs to be, as I believe Ms. Andrews said, stiffer consequences. I mean, I understand some of those vaping devices can be pricey, and I mean, if we take them away, I don't think we should give them back. We should take them away and destroy them. But suspension is always a challenge, just because we don't want kids not in school. They need to be in school. So, but how can we approach this? And then, so I jotted down this idea of maybe it's a two-pronged approach. And there's something that happens at our schools, and maybe even starting at 5th and 6th grade, or something that's grade appropriate, and middles and highs, about the dangers of vaping. I mean, the same kind of campaign we can launch here in Santa Fe. We can take the lead again. And when we think about it, most of us here are old enough to remember when cigarette ads were taken off radio and off air, all these things happened around tobacco, alcohol as well. And so we just have to decide whether or not this is a big enough health issue to confront it that way. And the kids, I think, really brought up great points. So there's what we can do on site, right, with education and monitoring, and also just assistance, from wellness and from nursing, assistance. And then on the city side, because there's a vape shop, and I mentioned this, and there's no ordinance right now. There's a vape shop within spitting distance of the new Milagro, okay? And I believe, and Ms. Sullivan can probably speak to it, that the city could pass an ordinance, much in the same that there's the state ordinance around alcohol, that there can be no vape shops or hookah shops or any of those things within a certain distance of any school. And that can be something that the city does. And also, to the extent possible, I would say one thing that the city and or county may be able to do is around advertising. So making sure that these kids aren't, advertised to, because they're so right now actively being targeted by the tobacco industry, especially with fun, fruity, sweet flavors, to get them hooked.
Dr. Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Carrillo, Board President Noble, for the acknowledgement. But I want to talk about what we are doing and what we think we can do. And I appreciate you bringing it to our attention, because as it was said in the public forum, it's bigger than just the Santa Fe Public Schools. I'm going to say just personally and professionally, I'm opposed to tougher sanctions like suspending the kids, as the way that the teacher mentioned, because I don't know that that's necessarily going to solve the problem. And we do have kids that are addicted. However, taking them away, which has been happening, and contacting the parents, we have a bigger problem. We have parents who say, I allow my kid to do this because it helps their ADHD. It helps their anxiety. So they're medicating with nicotine, and then they're becoming more addicted. We have a bigger problem in that some are using I forget the name of it, dabs, that have either very strong drugs from heroin to THC. This has it's not only at the high schools. We talked to the principals. It's at middle. It's also happening at an elementary. And what we do know from the research and my experience when I was cabinet secretary, that for teenagers in particular, the scare tactics don't work for them because they think they're immortal. What works for them is social pressure, where kids don't think it's cool to date somebody that vapes, that sort of thing. And so we've been talking, Sue and I, Ms. O'Brien and I, about, how can we use they used to be called SWAT teams, but the WAVE teams at the high schools, to have the students develop campaigns and videos and ideas around prevention. We've talked to the principals, Mario and our Director of Safety and Security, Mr. Salvidres, and Ms. O'Brien, have numerous ideas of things that we want to approach. Today, I spoke to the mayor about it, around can there be more enforcement? I mean, I know that I think, you all could, and I can too, if you'd like, to approach the city council if that's the direction of the board, and also the county. But I think that they could do more on enforcement in our community, just like we do if somebody buys alcohol for a kid, and then, we have kids or young adults who are of age that are buying it for our students. And so if they would do just a little bit of sting operation around that, so the word gets out that if you're buying for underage kids, but also we are been made aware, now I don't know it for a fact, that there may be vaping shops that are directly selling to minors. And so, the city could help us with that. There could be other ordinances, and it is going to take a multi-pronged approach. The schools can't do it alone. But particularly at the high schools, they are confiscating, they're bringing parents in, we're bringing parents in at the middle and elementary school. It's a broader problem. And I do think, though, that we need to do a campaign, and we can do it in a number of ways, of educating parents, that some parents think the vaping, the kids aren't going to get that it's scary and it's going to hurt them, but the parents who are allowing their kids to vape at home and whatnot, of the long-term consequences to their health, but that you could be vaping and ingesting a drug that maybe you got an e-cig from a friend that could put you in the hospital. We've had, about 5 or 6 kids who have been transported to the hospital from a narcotic being in the e-cigarette, and a kid unknowingly using it. And so, Sue, I don't know if you want to just add to some of the things we are doing. We're open to your suggestions, because we're all beside ourselves with it. And there's some that don't have a smell, and so it's real easy. Like, I could, if I had an e-cigarette and I tended to use it, I could probably use it real quickly, turn back. If you didn't catch it, you could vape. I mean, I've been in meetings at the national level where there are adults who very quickly vape in a meeting. And it's so quick, and so if the teacher turns her back, the kid can do it so quickly. And if it doesn't have a scent, you don't smell it.
So quickly, before you said about parents are held liable in their homes if kids are drinking. If there's a party and they know that there's alcohol at this party, and there are anyone under 21 there is having alcohol, it's the homeowner or parent that's held liable for that. So, I mean, this would seem also something that we could take to Mr. Hio, or maybe somebody from our northern delegation, to have legislation around, because it isn't just a Santa Fe issue. You're absolutely right. But reminding parents through some sort of school campaign and on social media that if you have a bunch of kids coming over for a party and they're vaping, you can have a 4th-degree misdemeanor or whatever it might be.
For smoking, I wish, as Mark, I had asked Mr. Lewandowski if he could stay because Mr. Salbeither
I can barely hear you. Is your mic on?
Yeah, it's on.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know if someone can get, or do you know, Ms. Sullivan, while we're discussing, if you can look up, because I know that, for example, on the alcohol, we found that it really isn't as high of a degree. Remember, it was like a misdemeanor or something. We thought it was a higher level, like if your kids drink. So the e-cigarette or vaping, if it's not marijuana or heroin or another drug in the I forgot the name of it. It's not pad. Dab. I'm dyslexic. If it would be enforceable, because I know kids smoke at home, regular cigarettes, and the police don't really. Mr. Lewandowski, could you go to the? Do you know off the top of your head? I remember we had talked about this whole issue of drinking at home, and we looked up at what degree of a misdemeanor or felony it was, and it was much lower than we thought if the parent allowed it. So do you know what the issue is on vaping at home or smoking at home?
I don't, Superintendent, I don't know for anything for vaping, but for at home with a parent, when it comes to alcohol, if they allow their child to drink, that is not against the law if they give them permission to. If they allow other children to drink, that would be contributing to the delinquency of a minor. So there is a differential if the parent allows their own child to drink and if the parents are allowing someone else's child to drink.
But around smoking, like when you were in law enforcement, do you recall anyone ever being arrested if kids were smoking at home?
No.
Or the other kids at a party, then they were smoking?
No, just if it was marijuana, but never tobacco. In my years, never tobacco or cigarettes itself.
And so cigarettes are the equivalent of, or e-cig is the equivalent of a cigarette.
Vice President Price.
When they advertise on TV these vaping devices, there's a warning, a big warning before the commercial starts that it's hazardous to your health. So people are starting to get into the swing of it, I think. And it's kind of like texting while you're driving. Wish we had thought of it sooner. And it's taken a while to catch on. You shouldn't text while you're driving. Same thing with this vaping, you know.
Would you like to add something, Ms. O'Brien?
Sure. Board President Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Garcia, and audience. What we had talked about, Mario, Salvidas, and myself, Mark, and even some principals around this is, and I think the kids and teacher Andrews really had some brilliant ideas. One is around education. So we have curriculum in grades 6, 7, and 8. It's something that's new to us. It's the Great Body Shop curriculum, where these issues are direct and making sure that this is being taught in those grade levels. I mean, we could go all the way down, but we purchased it for 6th, 7th, and 8th with that understanding. So really making sure that we're teaching it with fidelity is, I think, really important, starting at that level. They do, in the health classes in 9th grade, students are taught about certain drugs and the impacts of drugs on their brain. But I think the other piece, so education is huge. Getting out, one of the strategies we were talking about was actually having different parent nights, because the kids are getting inundated. Parents, they just get on their phones. They're getting inundated with all the other social media, everything around why they think they should do this. And to really know what the dangers are. We were at I was at a recent meeting when a student thought that by vaping, the story was the student thought by vaping that was helping that student's ADHD, but when the counselor worked with that student and actually pulled up information for that student, she's like, wait a minute, this could actually be causing my anxiety. So I think that education is really, really important at all levels. And then having the parent forums around this and the student forums. We do have our WAVE, so our wellness ambassadors at the high schools, but I think also opening it up to other students at the high school level so that they could have a voice and empower their youth. Youth-led work is always so critical, and we know it works. So, thank you.
I want to reinforce that because kids listen to other kids more than us. And if we can, you know, maybe even have contests around creating a cool video or the most innovative poster or whatnot, but it really is around the social peer pressure of it's not cool to do it.
There's
that
one other
I think will be impactful as well beyond the education piece, but I think the parents understanding the danger and also the kids knowing that they may be ingesting things that could potentially put them in the hospital.
There's one other piece that we can definitely make happen across our district is Santa Fe High right now engages, so we have PMS therapists, right, at the 2 teen health centers, and Santa Fe High currently has a procedure in place where if students have tobacco, alcohol, or drug violations, they go to 4 sessions. One's an intake, and then they go to 3 sessions. And Kevin O'Brien, one of our therapists, so he's been doing this for several years. He teaches them to go beyond, you know, to actually work on the addiction or whatever issues are underlying why these kids may initially get addicted. So one of the school counselors at Capitol High said, if we can get a curriculum, he said, I will teach it at Capitol High. So I think we really have an opportunity to look at that model and really start addressing. So we would refer kiddos who would have, you know, the violations to the code of conduct to start addressing some of those underlying issues. So, thank you.
Board Member Cuddy.
Okay, so city piece. I just don't want this to be a discussion. I want that to be like something that follows up. So city piece, who's going to go to the mayor or a council meeting to say, hey, this is a big issue for us. What can you do? How can we partner? Okay, there's that so that we can get it on their radar. In the same way when Randy Madrigon was speaking, about having, the need maybe for more cops or something at some of these schools, giving out tickets. And especially, we always hear from the bus drivers how people pass on the left when the red lights are flashing. So just wanting to make sure this doesn't just end up being a day that we chat about this and then move on, especially on the city piece. And then on the school piece, because I heard this from the principal as well as others, we've talked about on the prevention side, the intervention side. What about the consequence side? Don't have to decide that tonight, but I think it would be good if by the end of this coming term, we had a plan going into fall, and I'm not a fan of suspension. So you heard me say that earlier, right?
Yeah.
Not a fan of having kids not in school.
It is in the code of conduct now. We do have consequences.
But what I've heard from others is they're not effective. So I'm wondering, and I don't have an answer to that. But you guys are the experts. So, and maybe working with the principals and the guidance counselors are coming up with something other than suspension and just reporting back at some point.
Madam President? So we certainly can, and we do have plans for this task force to come up with ideas. I just thought of one now that if there are repeat offenders, perhaps doing more of a restorative justice, right? So we'll work on that, but it could be that they have to go to 3 counseling sessions, or they have to do something that is something that would de-incentivize doing it in the classroom. The other piece is I did speak to the mayor. I'd be happy to write to him officially that we discuss this at the board in terms of we'd like to problem solve with them, but there are some immediate things that I think they can legitimately do from a law enforcement perspective in the community in terms of people that are selling, to just some better monitoring of that. Perhaps they could help us with that. Of what is currently in place, I think the board needs to decide, if you want to go further in terms of any recommending working with the council.
Vice President Price.
Do you confiscate the vaping device now and not give it back?
They are confiscated and then
destroyed?
I don't know if they're destroyed or if they are given to the parent. That I don't know.
I would be in favor of it being destroyed.
And so we could have a policy that they are destroyed. I know they do confiscate it. Do you know, Ms. O'Brien? No.
Board President Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Garcia. I mean, the guidance that I received years ago was that we could confiscate it, but because it was personal property, that we had to return it to them. So I think that the schools are returning them to the parents, is my understanding. I don't think we can, maybe Lisa could help us with that, but.
He brings up a good point, and you just said this, and if they had a bottle of Jack Daniels, what are we going to do? Give the Jack Daniels back to the parent?
Well,
No.
Let me
No,
explain
to the
something,
police.
though. The
Police.
device is different than the stuff you're vaping.
Right.
So there's different kinds of devices. Now, with drug paraphernalia, we don't give it back to them, do we?
We do not. Yeah, I was thinking
So this
that
would be paraphernalia, so I don't think we
to the
have to give
police.
it back to them.
So then let's not.
Madam President, what do we have to back up a little bit? Drinking under 21 is illegal. Smoking under 16 is illegal, whether it's federal law, whether it's state law. Vaping, the way I understand it, is not illegal according to state law and or federal law. So whenever you call it paraphernalia, you have to be careful whether it's rolling paper, or whether it's a $150 device that they inhale, or whatnot. So that's just kind of where I'm at, is vaping illegal or not? No, there's not a state statute or a federal law that says you can only be 16, you can be 18, you can be 25. So we just have to take smaller steps as into where we are with this whole vaping, because it cannot be, I agree with Mr. Carrillo, but it cannot be compared to a cigarette and or alcohol.
Right.
The one thing that I'll work on is I'll work with our county's community service department to work with Mrs. O'Brien and see what type of literature's out there, what type of things we can work together with the schools to see how we can get the word out there. Thank you.
Price, then Board Member Cashman.
Ms. Sullivan, is there a legal age at which you cannot vape?
Board President Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Garcia, Vice President Price. I was looking into that, and there are state laws and regulations prohibiting the sale of vaping products to people under the age of 18. However, I haven't yet found the age where a teen could be prosecuted for the use of a tobacco product, and I'll have to put more time into researching that. You're welcome.
Board Member Cashman.
Just for the board, I heard Ms. O'Brien say that Capital, if you could get them a program, they would start it. So I would assume that the program requires funds.
Absolutely.
So I would like that when we get ready to do budget, that we're presented with what is it going to cost so we can implement the program.
Sure.
So the board can make a decision on where it falls in the 10,000 priorities we'll have, but.
Thank you. So in wrapping this up, I guess I would say I really appreciate the approaches outlined of education, of using the social networks. We all know peer pressure is the most effective thing. As a teenager who struggled with cigarettes, and I didn't care at the time, no matter how much everybody told me. You never saw me smoking at Santa Fe High, did you? No. Yeah. But it was a hard habit to kick. I appreciate the young people who showed up today and said that it is an addiction and should be treated as such, and I completely agree. As we think this through, there's been a couple could it be required to go to a couple counseling sessions? I wonder if merging the ideas of counseling with the WAVE networks or using the kids, the peer pressure, so, requiring young people to talk to other young people who have had this issue rather than adults who will wag fingers, because I don't know why my teenage self is so vivid in my mind, but my teenage self is very vivid in my mind, and I would not have listened if I would have gotten through the hour of counseling or the 3 hours or however many and gone outside and lit a cigarette. And, you know, I hope someone is in touch with Mr. Ramirez, who it sounds like tonight outlined what he has done on his own, under his own initiative, to ask other young people to take a pledge and really working to, in his own way, make it go viral to stop vaping. And I appreciate what Board Member Cashman has brought up in terms of budget, that, you know, let's do a program. I mean, what we do is public education. It is the answer to almost every bad thing out there, including this one. So let's use the tools we have in terms of educating our own networks, beginning with families and kids and teachers, and using the schools. The superintendent offered to write a letter to the mayor. I would assume that would also go to the city council and county commission. Is that the will of the board at this point, that we ask? Okay, I see at least enough nodding heads, that is, I think, an official request, and with an agreement of a majority, perhaps a unanimous majority of the board, that letter. And would you bring that back to us, or you just want to send it and inform us? Is there a strong preference here?
Just send it, but I'd say on behalf of the board.
And I'll CC you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe both of you sign it. You sign it with the superintendent.
Okay. Any other further discussion, questions on this issue? Vice President Price?
Perhaps maybe for, to show how we feel, maybe all of us should sign it.
It's fine with me. I mean, I'm easy to contact. I come over all the time and sign stuff. We used to, but whatever. Yeah.
Okay, and as ever, thank you, Ms. O'Brien, to you and the wellness staff and the team working to identify these issues and head them off. And this is, frankly, just like cigarettes. Initially, you know, I believe they even told pregnant women to smoke a cigarette and relax. And then as the health implications become more clear and the addiction issues become more clear, we get on top of this as a society. Dr. Garcia.
Just one way that this is different than cigarettes that I just want to point out, that I think is the frustration of, like, Principal Morano, Principal Runyon, the middle school principals and the teachers, is that it's hard for kids. I mean, kids usually aren't that brash that they're going to light up. I'm sure you didn't smoke in your classroom. And if you did, wow. But, you know, and this is what's driving the teachers and the principals and the assistant principals crazy. As I just said a while ago, and I don't know if you really caught, I could turn and vape right here. And they're constantly doing it, and yet the teachers and the principals, by the code of conduct, have to stop class, send them, make sure they go out, fill out the disciplinary papers. I mean, let's just take health out of the question. It's disrupting our classrooms. It's taking up, like Mr. Morano said, 70% of his discipline referrals are on these e-cigarettes, smoking them in the building. I asked the principals, and I thought, well, I wonder about Mandela. You know, sweet little Mandela. Certainly they don't have a vaping problem. He said, what did the principal say, that the sprinkler went off in the bathroom because some kid was vaping in the bathroom at Mandela? You know, I asked elementary teachers, have you had principals, have you had an issue with this at the elementary school? I would say half the hands went up at elementary. And so I mean, of course we're worried about the kids' health. That's got to be number one. But it's disrupting the educational process because we can't allow it, and it's happening in the classrooms. So this is where I think we're having difficulty getting our heads around this, of how we really need community help, because we are doing our best to discipline kids and to bring parents in. But when you have parents that are supporting it and have parents that utilize it as a way to calm their kids at night so they can sleep, in some instances, this is a bigger problem than us, and I think that's part of our frustration, is how to deal with not only the health issues but the disciplinary issues, and how disruptive it has become in some of our schools, in the classrooms.
And I wasn't going to tell this story, but now I will. Having been at the National School Board Conference this past weekend, I was at a bar waiting for a table in a restaurant, at the bar in the restaurant, after hours, and talking actually to a couple school board members, one woman from Monroe, Louisiana, and it became a very hot topic when the gentleman next to us informed us that he had just vaped. And what he did was he said, I hold it in, and then I just do this. And I blow it out, and you can never tell. And the school board member from Monroe, Louisiana got incredibly fired up about how he shouldn't be doing that in public. He shouldn't be doing that in public place, that there are secondhand, I guess smoke is the wrong word, vape issues, et cetera, but it's clearly something that as a society we need to understand and educate people better, as you say, with parents, and the low profile of it is certainly an issue.
If you go to a movie theater, just turn around once in a while. If you sit up in the front, or if you sit way in the back, you'll see little puffs of vapor in movie theaters.
Okay, anything else? Any other items for board discussion?
Yeah, item D.
Oh.
I always,
D, if I may, just to, update Milagro, Llano Street, timeline, occupancy projection, et cetera. Board Member Cuddy?
Yeah, thank you. So I probably drive by Milagro very intentionally at least twice a week, because I just love that we're building that school. But I'm not a builder, so I can't look at a building and say, what stage are they at? I've seen this new piece go up, or like those blue slats or whatever. What stage are they at? And then I'm thinking, holy smokes, in 10 weeks, we said, or even a few weeks after that, we're going to move in. That's why this is here, to understand, are we on time in terms of the building and everything being completed by the end of May, or at least like the first weeks of June, then being furnished, then having people move in from Milagro. What's the scheduling like? We knew we were going to talk to the union about it because we were saying that we budgeted, I think 5 extra days or something, so the teachers could really not be stressed around moving into their classrooms. But they might be stressed if they have to do that at the same time they're doing whatever program that was just mandated. And then also in terms of athletics, I mean, Milagro at Capshaw has a vibrant athletic program. We know the field is typically not the first thing, at least from being on CRC, one of the last things that's in. What are we going to do about athletics? So just a general update on all of these different areas, which is why this is on board discussion. No, that's why it's here to do tonight. That's.
Well, actually, sometimes, this is where I'm confused of how we've done board discussion at some of these. The idea was that if, let's say, a board member brought something that they wanted, that you would all vote if you wanted it to come back. And sometimes, we have the information. Ms. Wagner may be totally ready to do that. But what's the pleasure of the board? Did you want that update tonight? Oh, I think we could do, I know we're ready. I know we're on time, for sure. We're ready for them to move in before school starts, for sure. At the end of school, just like we had planned. So we're on target, but if you want an update of where we are on the planning, then I would ask if it's a pleasure of the board that we do it at the next board meeting. I don't know how specific you wanted, but for board discussion, I think, and the reason we put possible action there, if you remember.
No, I know.
Was you all would vote to see if this is something you wanted to come back.
This could also be something that the CRC brings back, because that's often why, especially in 7- and 9-member boards, they have committees that do things so that we don't have to have a presentation and encumber staff with that, but the people sitting on CRC can then bring back the updates that they receive around scheduling and everything else. That could be a piece too, but I was hoping to have answers tonight. I'm fine not having waiting 2 weeks or whatever to have answers.
So, my understanding, just to say, and I think it's worth revisiting, my understanding is the same as Dr. Garcia's, that on board discussion and possible action, it's not necessarily asking that it be ready in any given agenda item to be addressed, that we do have a process for validating if a majority of the board wants it brought back or addressed. Sounds like on this particular issue, we could get an update tonight. So I just want to clarify that. My personal preference as well, and obviously we can decide this as a board, is that when we do these things, we also be a little bit discerning about whether we're asking for a presentation or an informational email or something like that as we go forward and request information, just partly as we work on making board meetings more efficient. So is it the pleasure of the board that we ask Ms. Yonda Wagner to give us a quick update? I hear one no.
I would say yes, because my understanding, when things aren't listed on board discussion, we can bring something up, like there's two things that were brought up earlier that I want to see that we have on board discussion for whatever the next meeting is, the 16th. And there's that way that we bring things up for later. But since this was put on, like 10 days ago, I mean, my expectation was that we'd be able to have some, not a presentation, but just a question and answer, a discussion, if you will, since it's board discussion.
Madam President, and I think I did answer, we are on time.
So I mean, how is it?
I don't know if you want more detail.
Then
Ms.
I'll just ask the
Wagner?
question straight away. So like on the teacher move-in, when are the teachers moving into the property?
We have, go ahead, Ms. Wagner, but I think we already even negotiated that. It is right after school is out. They have 5 days to pack up their stuff and move. And so we're on plan, we're on target to what we told the board we were going to do and what we negotiated with the union.
Because I know that when I was on CRC, there was when the building's going to be complete, and school's out like on the 21st or 20, right. And so we've talked in this meeting about them not moving in till June. We've talked in this meeting at other dates about
It may be May, actually, but can you go ahead, Ms. Wagner?
Board President Noble, board members, Superintendent Garcia. We provide the Citizens Review Committee, and I believe that Ruth forwards for us an update every month on every project from a construction standpoint. So I can speak to the technicalities. I mean, I can talk about 70% completion for the total project, or what percent we're at on site work and interiors and whatnot. But I think what I'm hearing is, are we on schedule to move in and open the school in August? And Dr. Garcia is correct. Everything is on schedule, as we've discussed throughout this past year. So that's substantial completion by the contractor in May, okay? Ensuring the new facility for occupancy by Santa Fe Public Schools in June, moving in furniture, bringing in technology, and having the campus operational to receive school staff in July, as early as they would like to start professional development. We're working on a schedule with Ms. Courting and her core team to be approved by her staff that will look like a couple of days of packing and contractual extensions at the end of this school year, and then how to allow for unpacking and organizing in the new year. So there won't be any physical unpacking, but teacher belongings will move in May and June. And the site will be fully functional for all staff for professional development, for whatever we decide to do in July of this year. So that schedule really has not changed. Weather has not impacted it. Our exterior stucco work is now, it takes about 30 days. We just got to the temperature points where we can do that work. And we're happy to give a higher level of detail, but we're at about 70% project completion, substantial completion by the contractor the end of May. On target to hit all milestones and open the school for fall seasons, indoor and outdoor. We don't have any anticipated delays.
That's fantastic. I mean, you can see how if you drive by it, you can think, because I'm not a builder. I don't, now that we're ready to stucco and, we had a bunch of snow and there's just that concern because we're obviously need to be ready for kids. So on the athletic side and the field side, Is that also going to be, because I understand that on some of the other schools, boy, when we opened Nina and like El Camino, those were kind of the last pieces, if I'm remembering correctly, to be completed was the turf. Is it going to be ready for football?
Board President Noble, Board Member Superintendent Garcia, Board Member Creo, we don't anticipate delays on any portion of the project at this time. So we're reporting full completion, including the sports field installation, furniture, technology, everything. If something moves to a point where we're concerned about the schedule, we'll notify you via the Citizens Review Committee in our monthly update.
Outstanding. Thank you very much.
Board Member Cashman.
Maybe at our next board meeting, we could just, if the school district is at the point, when will our teachers pack up and when will they move in? If the dates are set for those, just so we get a feeling. So when teachers come to us and say, we haven't moved, just so we know, okay.
But I think the dates have been set. They're going to be packing at the end. I mean, contractually, they're going to be packing when their contract is up. They're getting paid for an additional 2 days. That's when it's happening, okay? And if they do come to you, send them to me, okay? Because I think sometimes they don't ask us, and I don't know why they don't ask us, but sometimes they don't. Or they should be asking their principal. They would get the answer because, Ms. Cording knows.
I just have one other item for board discussion, and it's just a reminder. I don't know if it was for Ms. Sullivan or Mr. Melendres. All of us got a list with the new election law, things that have to happen. We have some dates in April, and we have one more meeting in April. So we need to, get out this, and if the superintendent could, just start looking at it, because those dates are coming a lot sooner and a lot faster. Like, we have to decide, do we need to have SB 9 or House Bill
And I think
9?
we're aware we don't.
Okay.
So
But if
we're
we
already
could
on
just-
that, so we've looked at it. We're not having an election in November. The only election that we'll have in November are for the board offices. We have 3.
Okay.
But we have no SB 9, no GeoBond, no HB 33. So we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
It's good news. It's going to take people a half an hour to vote with all those different things they're dealing with. For board discussion, 2 items for next week. First is Randy Mondragon's concern. This comes up every year, or every couple of years, having to ask the city to work with police, having Miss, I just forgot his, the security, what? No. Our security individual that was just here.
Salvides.
Mark or Salvides, yes, either one. But working with the city to crack down on how irresponsible drivers can be around school buses and schools.
So we'll follow up on that, Mr.
Okay.
President. I was disappointed, though, that I asked Madam President, and the habits, sorry, Board Member Carrillo. I was disappointed, though, that was not ever presented to us before it came here. So, because I asked Ms. Wagner, have we heard from Ms. Runyon? Have we heard from the principals that they were having a significant issue, and it had not been reported? So we will go out and do some visuals and see what's actually happening and validate that, and then we will follow up.
Swell. And the other thing, and this was brought up relative to JROTC and the Suburbans, and I know that Lieutenant Commander and I have spoken about that. So the first couple of days of basketball going to the pit, because they didn't have a bus, they used the Suburbans, right? Because we have Suburbans for our athletic departments. Why aren't these Suburbans made available to JROTC? And can there be a Suburban that is purchased because they seem to do more traveling than anybody, that is purchased for JROTC? And I understand they can't be passenger vans because of state regulation the top heaviness and safety and stuff like that. And the suburban, because Lieutenant Commander and I did talk about this once, you have to have the tow capacity. So it's something, yeah, it's a budget item. It's a one-time, maybe every 6 years budget item, but having a suburban and making that the same priority for JROTC that it is for high school basketball.
So we will be having the NJROTC back at the next board meeting? At the study session, so next week. No, at the next board meeting, 2 weeks from tonight. And I think it's fair. I certainly would support, and I don't know if there's another board member who would, this information being brought back. Some of these questions, looks like you have at least 3 of us who are interested.
And just so you know, board members, every item that comes up at public forum, every item that you bring up is being recorded, even though I'm not taking notes. We're writing it all down. It all comes back. We do post-board tomorrow, and then we'll have answers in the superintendent's update. So even if you don't bring it up, we'll come back and report back on everything that's ever brought up. But we'll do it.
But even more specific to use, it would seem like the time has come for JROTC to have, you know, a Suburban with some screaming colors on it, and I don't know, whatever it is they need for their travels. And I'm sorry. And I think an issue of being prioritized the same way that we prioritize, I would say, football, cheer, basketball, in terms of the use of those vehicles. And not leaving them stranded places without a ride. We can talk about that later.
Board Member Cashman.
This just might be food for thought, because I don't know that we can afford it, but I can't remember whether it was a school district in New Mexico or whether it was on the national news. But again, a safety issue on school buses, and some school districts are, as that arm goes out with the stop sign, they're actually got little cameras that snap a picture of the car and snap a picture of the license plate. You know, it's probably pretty expensive, I don't know, but that's how they're trying to solve the problems. And we probably have some areas of town that have more problems than others. And so maybe that's something we should investigate, you know, but I have no idea how expensive it is. But I thought it was a pretty neat idea when I saw it on the news.
Because they're city streets and they're city kids. So cities should pay for it, and they can put a camera when the thing flips out. I mean, if they can do the stupid, I'm not a fan of the speed vehicles. If they can do those, then they can do the, well, they're taking it up again, and they're going to, but then they can do a little cam on the, and the bus driver just pushes a button and gets the plate. That's a great idea. City pays for it.
Okay, let's try and remember to put items on board discussion so we don't end up out of compliance with the Open Meetings Act. And yes, and you know, I would maintain that board discussion items are there for, and I appreciate the policy that as board president, Mr. Carrillo brought forward, that anybody can put an item on board discussion. I would ask that we are judicious, and that even if there is a lot of notice, it is not necessarily a way to ask staff to prepare a presentation or something like that. We do need to work as a board, so I appreciate that. On to advanced planning. And we are looking at our next meeting being a study session at 5 o'clock. A reminder that it will be on a Monday, April 8th. Any changes or items to bring up on advanced planning? And I think I mentioned, I did hear from the board attorney that, and we are looking at June 10th as doing the superintendent's evaluation, and June 24th as a potential discussion of the contract, and we will confirm with the board attorney, who believes he is available on those dates. Any other issues, items on advanced planning? Seeing none, it's time to adjourn. Thank you all very much.